Hey, everybody. He's Indiana Jones. She's Marion. He's the weird Nazi Gestapo dude whose face melts. I'm the weird Nazi dude that tries to harness the power of the Ark. No, wait, that ain't it. This ain't Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, and we are trying to harness the power of the quarterback of the future to lead us to the Super Bowl. Gentlemen, how are you?
Ted, doing fantastic over here. You know there's going to be some people that have that melting face when they draft the quarterback or don't draft the quarterback. The melting face is going to be happening to a lot of Vikings.
Chris, I think the melting Gestapo Nazi dude is going to be like 75% of Vikings X or Vikings Twitter on draft night if the Vikings trade up and they draft a quarterback and they don't draft their guy. If they trade up and give up a third first-round pick, next year's first-round pick, and they don't draft their guy. If they stay put and get Michael Penix. If they draft down and get like Bo Nix. 75% of Vikings Twitter on draft night is going to be the melting face Nazi Gestapo guy, in my opinion.
It absolutely will be because, like I've said before about Viking fans, we're not happy unless we're not happy.
What you did to me to my life.
I can only say I'm sorry so many times.
Well, say it again anyway.
Nailed it.
And there is no outcome that is going to satisfy every Vikings fan on draft night. Somebody's going to be pissed off about something. Somebody's going to be, he's Christian Ponder 2.0. And it's, shut up, dude. You don't know anything about anything until he actually plays. Whatever.
I think the only scenario that worked out, and I saw this, it was pretty funny. It was Dustin Baker, who runs VikingsTerritory.com. I like him. He's a good dude. I follow him on Twitter. If you don't, you should. He highlighted this AI-generated article.
You want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
And I think this is the only thing that Vikings Twitter could come to terms with, and we would all be happy about. And he said this AI-generated thing was going great until the very last sentence in it. And the AI-generated article said, the Vikings would optionally like to get Caleb Williams at 11 and Marvin Harrison Jr. at 23. And I'm telling you, I think everybody would be okay with that. If somehow Caleb Williams would fall to 11 and Marvin Harrison Jr. at 23, I think most people would be on board with that. But I bet there would be people out there whose face would melt because they didn't get defensive guys at 11 and 23, but whatever.
I'm getting ready for every scenario, Ted. You know me. I like to cover all my bases, brother. Just like Indiana Jones. But, they take a guy, they trade up for a guy, take a guy at 11, don't take a guy till the fourth round, or don't take a guy at all. I'm prepared because my face will not be melting. Might be melting because of something else. But it's not going to be melting because of how the Vikings acquire a quarterback. Or don't acquire.
Well, look, we don't need you doing like a Richard Pryor freebase and cocaine imitation and melting your face that way, my friend. Don't be doing any of that.
But we can.
Hey, look, it's a free country, brother. Do what you want. Ruby's out there somewhere. She's got a lot going on. She's got work stuff going on, but she got the gonculator machine fired up so we could record tonight. So, hi, Ruby. Hope you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for all that you do. So, yeah. Anyways. We got as Ed Sullivan said, we got a really big show. There's not a whole lot of Vikings news, but we're going to talk about a couple of kind of what-if scenarios. We were thinking about what we could talk about. And then we're down to our last two position groups. We're going to talk cornerbacks this week, and then we got safeties next week, and then Captain Stubing over there. When we're done with that, we're done. And then it's the live draft show. We're coming up. We're under like 2 weeks, man. Or right at, yeah.
I got my hat in time. I'm going to be renting a boat for all of us. After the draft's over, we're going to go out in the lake and we're going to have a little bit of fun out there on Minnetonka. What's this?
Because what's the worst that could
happen?
What is
that? I don't know.
Richard Pryor running down the street.
No!
Have you no emotions?
You just did not do that.
He sure did.
Look, before we get going, head on over to Purple Plain Forums. That's purpleplanforums.com. A great small-knit community of diehard Minnesota Vikings fans that like to talk Vikings football, college football, the NFL draft. There's even some non-sports related topics. It's a well-moderated board. It's nothing like social media where just anybody jumps in and things just absolutely fly off the rails. It's a great group of folks with great content and great topics about the Vikings. It's about whatever else you want to talk about under the sun. Head on over there, set up an account, start talking purplepainforums.com. And we've already alluded to it on Thursday, April 25th, night one of the NFL draft, the first round. Drew, Chris, and myself will be live right here on our YouTube channel.
This is football, chump.
We'll be on sometime between 6:30 and 6:45. We'll let you know for sure when we go live. The first round of the NFL draft. We're going to be giving away prizes. Drew just showed our super duper number one Uno prize, the official NFL 2024 Minnesota Vikings draft cap, which is what our first round pick will be wearing when they walk out on the stage to be greeted by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, or multiple first round picks, depending on how the first round plays out. We'll be giving away some other prizes as well. We've got a draft shirt, as Toonces has told me, and we're going to spin the Toonces Wheel of Destiny. We'll also be giving away prizes throughout the night from our Vikings prize vault, which you can check over at VikingsReport.com. That's VikingsReport.com. So, gentlemen,
Crazy.
You ready to go three wide at Talladega, boys?
Flags in the air. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
What? Oh, what does he say?
Jiggity, jiggity, jiggy. Let's go racing, boys.
Yeah, I'm ready.
What time
I'm
is
ready.
it, brother?
Absolutely.
I look like
let's
that
do it.
goddamn Titanic captain now that sank the ship. That's what I look like. I just figured it out. I don't want to sink the show. Maybe I should take this off.
Drew?
No.
Yeah, what time is it,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah?
Ted?
Mm-hmm.
Chris? I am cooler than you are. So why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Why don't you find that arc and light this candle?
He surely is. Melt that Nazi's face and light this candle.
Yes, resume the countdown.
All right, I'm cooler than you are. Why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Let's light this candle. He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
All right.
Thanks, Drew.
We are off and running. That worked out well.
We nailed it.
What about Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark? Yeah?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to make sure she qualifies for the Ted Glover Smoke Show Award.
Who was better, her? Who was the blonde? Kate Capshaw in the Temple of Doom?
I don't know. How many of there has there been, guys? Like 12?
4 or 5, I think. Because they just had one this year.
I think it was Capshaw.
I think they're up to like the 5th Raiders of the Lost, or the 5th Indiana Jones movie. Yeah,
the one that
like
just came out last year has the original Marion back in it.
Yeah.
I heard.
So with our grandson Grayson, so like Deanna is watching like these series movies like Harry Potter. She's watched most of the Harry Potter movies with him. And I'm wanting to watch the Lord of the Rings movies with him, but he doesn't really want to watch those yet. We watch all the Star Wars movies with him. And we've watched the Indiana Jones movies, the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies. And so we started with the very first one, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which came out, in 82, 83, 81?
81. Ruby was 5 years old.
And so we're watching that one. And, like, movies have obviously come a long way since 1981. And we finished watching it, and he kind of looks at us, and he says, Pop, so how old were you when that movie came out? I said, well, it's either in junior high or high school. We were going on and on about it, like, well, it was a great movie. He's like, that was pretty cheesy. I mean, those fights were so fake. I mean, and when you watch it again, it really is a very cheesy movie compared to what they're doing these days.
I got done telling Ruby that after I watched it again today because I saw it in 81 when it came out. I was 16, and I don't remember much from 1981, so I had to watch it again. But it didn't seem as gigantic, and the effects were kind of exactly what he said. Exactly, the fight scenes were kind of cheesy and everything.
But missing punches by like a 2-3 inches. I mean, it's so obvious. But yeah,
I do like the scene when the guy's doing the thing with the sword and he shoots him. That's a pretty cool scene.
And apparently, the funny part about that is that scene was completely just improv. Like, Harrison Ford was not originally supposed to do that. There was supposed to be like an actual fight, and he was just like, nah, screw it, and he just shoots the guy.
I heard he was feeling under the weather, had like a 101 temperature, so that was the cut on that. that day. He was sick, so he just decided to shoot him, but it worked out pretty good.
I did not know that. Today I learned that just now. All right. So look, there's kind of a dead period right now in terms of news. The bulk free agency is over, like we said last week. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about expectations for 2024 and 2025. 2024, I don't think anybody is looking to expect a whole lot from the Vikings in the upcoming 2024 season with Sam Darnold and or the rookie quarterback, assuming the Minnesota Vikings do, in fact, get a rookie quarterback in the draft upcoming in a couple weeks. I think, Chris, the over-under set by Vegas, and you're usually more up to speed on this, and if you're not, I don't mean to be putting you on the spot, but I think the over-under was set for wins for the Vikings. Is it 6.5?
I believe I saw 6.5 for most of the sports book type people. Yeah, I think 6.5 sounds
Does
about
that
right.
seem right to you, or is me being the ultimate optimistic homer, does that feel a little bit too low?
I think they can definitely get over 6.5 wins this year. I mean, these things, with the way the NFL is, things happen when you don't expect them to happen. I mean, we want to look back at 2017. The Vikings had that great opener against New Orleans at US Bank, and then they went out the next week against Pittsburgh, and like an hour before the game was like, oh, by the way, Sam Bradford's hurt. He's not going to start. We're going to throw Case Keenum in there at quarterback instead. And everyone was like, geez, we are so screwed, because we didn't even know if Keenum was going to make the team coming out of training camp or whatever, and he wound up being the backup. And the next thing we know, we wound up 13-3 that season. Like you said last week, the NFL is such a year-to-year league at this point that you really can't anticipate a hell of a lot of anything. And I think this team has enough talent to get at least over that 6.5 wins. I don't know how far over, but I think they could get there, to be honest.
Drew, what are your expectations as they stand right now for the Vikings, assuming Vegas says over under 6.5 wins?
Tell everybody right now, little betting advice: go pump the over. I'm putting 500 on the over.
Are you
6.5?
Really?
That is too low. They're going to have 6.5 by Thanksgiving. They're going to have 7 wins. That's an easy over bet. Easy. Take it, people. Run to the bank and take it. That's how I see it. That's how I see this team. When you spread it out over the course of everybody in the NFC, and you look at the opponents for next year who's already out, they're going to blow 6.5 out of the water, as far as I'm concerned. Not saying they're going to win 13, but I'm saying I'm expecting 9 to 10 wins. I mean, look at the team. Look at the defense. Look at the personnel. Look what they did this offseason. Say what you want about Darnold. I think he's good enough to lead this team to victories. And I personally feel 6.5 is a joke, but it's an easy bet. Bet the over. What do you think, Ted?
I'm not sure yet. I've said this before. I've said this on previous shows. I think Sam Darnold's in the best situation he's been in, other than San Francisco, but he wasn't expected to start there. He's in the best situation he's been in as a starter. He's got the best weapons around him he's had as a starter. He has no pressure on him because nobody thinks the Vikings are going to be very good. I think he could pleasantly surprise a lot of people. So when he's hoisting the Lombardi and the comeback player of the year and the MVP trophy all at once, no, I don't know. I think 6.5 is reasonable right now because as a decent over-under, because look, Sam Darnold hasn't been very good when he's played, but you got to consider where he's been at in his NFL career so far. And then you compare that, well, are they going to get a rookie quarterback? And if they do, are they going to start the rookie quarterback right away? That's going to be a factor as well. How well is the rookie quarterback going to play? That historically does not turn out very well their first year in terms of wins and losses. I think if that happens and the Vikings only get 6 or 7 wins, I think last year they went, 7-10 after Kirk got hurt and everything else. I'd be okay with it because that kind of leads us to the next discussion we were having. I think that sets them up for 2025 and beyond. I think, Drew, you mentioned you think 2025 is the year that the Vikings are looking at to really kind of kick the door in and say, here we are. You're going to have to deal with us now because we are going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I think so. I think this year I kind of feel as a fan that we're playing with house money a little bit because people, 6.5 is not big expectations. 6.5 doesn't, really calling for a playoff spot. But I think a lot of us think the Vikings that know the team inside and out and the personnel think they can maybe catch a little bit of fire. Real quick on Darnold, I had mentioned before he went to San Francisco and played backup for a season on the sidelines. And I heard other people saying, well, just because he went to San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, and I think I heard this term used by one of the guys on one of the shows. Kyle Shanahan's not going to sprinkle this magic dust on him and make him a great quarterback. I understand that. I respect that opinion. But I'm going to tell you, watching a season of football from the sidelines does you a lot more good than being out there getting sacked on your ass in Carolina. I'm just saying. I think a year off is what Darnold needed. So I'm looking for a completely different guy.
You know what Kyle Shanahan was for Sam Darnold?
Here we go, folks.
Sam Darnold was in abusive relationships when he got into the NFL with the Jets and the Panthers.
Sure.
Kyle Shanahan was the relationship that healed him. And it wasn't the relationship that got him to the point where I'm going to get married and have kids and all that, but it got him back to a good place where it got him to the point where, you know what, I'm a good person and it didn't work out, but we're always going to have fond feelings for each other. And when we go our separate ways, you know, we're always going to keep in touch, and I'm going to wish you well in life and you're going to wish me well. And that's what that was. And now wherever Sam ends up, when he's in his retirement home sometime, he's going to get on social media and he's going, that's Kyle. Oh, look, Kyle's had such a good life. I'm so happy for Kyle. That's what Kyle Shanahan was for Sam Darnold. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Ted just pitched a Hallmark movie on us. That's pretty impressive. Heck yeah.
Bad relationships, Jets and Carolina.
Yeah.
That's like going from R. Kelly to Weinstein.
The Jets in Carolina were essentially chicks that had like 4 baby daddies with 3 kids, an OnlyFans account, and tattoos from like the cheeks all the way down to the ankles. That's what those relationships were for Sam Darnold.
We are never getting a sponsorship.
Absolutely
maybe OnlyFans, but that's about it.
KOC and Mensa started together, so it's easier than just hiring a coach and having the GM already here. So this is really easy to explain for me. This is the Drew kind of idea for how the head coach and the GM roll. They get hired. Everybody's on the purple cloud. Everybody loves the press conferences. We're going to rock. You get that first year. Nothing is really done about that first year. You get the first year and the second year to clean it all up, clean up the contracts, flush down the roster. You're getting rid of people and putting in your own guys. And by the third season, which is this season, you can start calling it your own team. His first draft is now 3 years in. I really feel as of right now, this is their team. I just within the last month feel secure about that. Then they get their quarterback, whether he starts this year or starts the next year. From this point on, I think they get 2 more years, 2024, 2025, and at the end of 2025, they're on the fence, and we'll figure out if they get another year after that. But if you look at next year, there's a lot to be excited about next season. The quarterback might have a year under his belt. Even if he doesn't play, we're going to have the quarterback. Ted has mentioned all that money, the $105 million. That's going to be setting us up for success. And 2025 to me is when they're going to be right in the thick of things for the NFC, Chris, and maybe for the NFL. And that's really when you're going to judge this team.
It's going to depend a lot. You know, we keep mentioning the quarterback situation and whatnot. They have to hit on whichever quarterback they take here because, you know, if they're talking about, 6 potential quarterbacks being taken in the first round, not all 6 of those guys are going to be successful. At least a few of them are going to completely flame out and be busts and whatnot. But, they absolutely need to hit on this quarterback position in this draft. We've said that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah need to be scouting quarterbacks like their job depends on it because it pretty much does depend on it. Because if they miss on the quarterback, they'll have their quarterback for 2024, 2025. And with the situation they're in, if they don't have that first round pick next year after a trade up, they'll have that first rounder in 2026 again. And like we said last week or whenever it was, it's probably going to be a new head coach and a new general manager making that quarterback decision. And we're going to have to go from there again. But yeah, the quarterback position is crucial. Hopefully these guys have it in them to get it right. And if they do, then I'm right there with you, Drew, with 2025 being the
Drew,
year.
You mentioned you were hesitant to give up a first-round pick next year and a potential trade-up, and I get it. I go back to this having $100 million in cap space, and I think the Vikings and Adolfo-Mensah and O'Connell were setting this up from the minute they got hired. They've got over $100 million in cap space next season, and so they can afford this year or next year, they can afford to give up a first-round pick next year to be aggressive, to trade up and get a quarterback they want because their legacy and their jobs are going to be on the line based on who they pick at quarterback. So I don't think they're going to be willing to settle for a guy if their jobs are going to depend on how well that guy performs. So if they want either Drake May or JJ McCarthy or Jay Daniels, or probably not Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to go to the Bears. They're not going to worry about not giving up that first round pick next year. They're going to go get their guy, whether it's May or McCarthy. And I think it should be McCarthy for reasons I've said in earlier shows. But they're not going to care about that first round pick, because if they don't get May or McCarthy, now they're looking at Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, more than likely. And probably, I'm not in the Vikings war room. I don't know how their evaluation process is going, but by all accounts, it's either May or McCarthy for the Vikings. And if they don't get one of those two guys, then they're settling. And if your job depends on getting the quarterback you want, you don't want to settle. So I would fully expect if they have to give up that first round pick in 2025, they're going to do it. And I'm all about it, because like you said, they're going to get 2 years to use that quarterback to see if that was the right pick or not. And if it's not, then they're gone. If it is, like Chris, I believe you said last week, if it turns out that it's May or McCarthy and it turns out to be the right pick, then nobody is going to care if they gave up that extra first round pick. Nobody's going to care at all.
So the one thing I wanted to bring up is, as far as potentially trading up, it came out this week that the Vikings had gotten that extra first round pick from Houston, and I think everybody just assumed that Kwesi was going out there looking for a second first round pick so that he could potentially give up more picks this year and fewer in the future. Well, Adam Schefter came out the other day on somebody's show or podcast or whatever it is, and he said that it was Houston that actually initiated the talks that led to that trade. So Houston was looking to move out of the first round, and they're the ones that came to Kwesi and said, hey, do you want to do this trade? So I don't know if that kind of puts things in a different perspective about how aggressive they're going to be, because, they weren't looking necessarily for that extra first round pick this year, which means if you were going to give up 3 firsts to move up, you were going to have to give up this year's and 2025 and 2026 in order to make that happen. But now you've got the 2 this year because of the trade. I don't know if the fact that Houston initiated that trade to send the extra first rounder to Minnesota puts things in a different perspective than it would have if, Kwesi was out there actively looking for that extra pick. I mean, he might have been, I don't know, but in this particular case, if you believe what Schefter's saying, it was Houston's idea to make that trade with Minnesota rather than Minnesota trying to get that extra pick from Houston.
So do you think then the Vikings could give up like 11, a first round next year, and then like say a second round in say 2026 and hold on to pick 23 potentially?
They might be able to. I don't know if that's the plan, because like you said, with the situation they're looking at 2025 with all the extra cap space and whatnot, if there was a year for them to not have a first rounder, 2025 would probably be the year for that. I don't think they'd want to dip into the 2026 draft pick pool or anything like that at this point. But I just thought that, since apparently Kwesi was not actively looking for that pick and they managed to acquire one from Houston based on their initiating the trade talks, how aggressive they were planning on being about it in the first place.
This is interesting that I wanted to bring this up with you guys and get your take on it. How much leverage or how much pull do those draft picks have? Just pick 23 and next year's first round pick. Does that make, when they're sitting around the table, does that give more power to the Michael Penix and the Bo Nix idea, knowing that they don't have to give up all this capital to get one of those guys? Does it pull them in that direction? Do they say we can get by with that? Because like Ted just said, we want to make sure we get our guy and not settle. Is settling, wait until 11, taking one of those guys so you can keep your picks? Is that settling? Even if they want those guys, they may want one of those guys.
Yeah, I think it depends on how they've evaluated those guys. I mean, if they've got Penix rated equally, say with McCarthy or Drake May, then I would think it would be kind of dumb for them to trade up. I mean, I don't know if that's the case. I have no idea what their evaluation process is. I just, what I've read on Twitter and articles, on the internet and stuff from beat reporters. And it just seems that it's either Drake May or JJ McCarthy, and with kind of Michael Penix Jr. as an afterthought and very little information on Nix. And this time of year, I've also said, I don't believe anything anybody's saying about any quarterback. So this could be all a smokescreen, and they've wanted Penix all along. So who knows?
Another part of that is You don't know what's going to happen if those quarterbacks go 1 through 4 and the Vikings aren't involved in that. You don't know what's going to happen between 5 and 11 either, because we talked briefly last week about how in the mock draft we're doing among the SB Nation bloggers, I wound up trading up to number 4 to make sure that we got McCarthy. A few picks after that, Las Vegas traded up to number 9 so that they could get Penix, who was the 5th quarterback off the board. So, something like that happens if they want to sit back and see if they can wait until 11. There are teams that can jump in front of them. It's Vegas or, Denver or whoever it might be, and then you're looking at Bo Nix at number 11 if you want a quarterback, or Spencer Rattler later on or something. So I do think they are going to get aggressive and whatnot, but we don't know what's going to happen at this point. And anybody who says they know what's going to happen is absolutely lying to you because they don't know what's going to happen.
The Raiders aren't jumping in front of anything except the bus that's going to proverbially run them over every season. You have to get one of those 4 to win a Super Bowl?
I think they have to get one of those 4 to walk away from this job saying they shot their shot. If I'm KOC and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and I have decided either Drake May or JJ McCarthy is the guy I want to run my offense, then I'm going to do what I can to go get one of those 2 dudes.
That's what they should do. If they're completely set on that, that's what they should do.
Is that what they've decided on? I don't know. I mean, I'm just assuming that that's what the deal is based on everything I've read so far. And you're going to hitch your wagon to one of those 2 guys based on what you've looked at on tape, what you've done in interview rooms, talking to them face to face, how you feel about those 2 guys. And if it works, then you've got a job in Minnesota for a while. And if it doesn't, then you can, when you're cleaning out your desk, you can say to yourself, you know what? I did it my way, and I didn't settle for a guy that probably didn't work out either. So at least I've learned what worked in this job, and I learned what didn't work. And if I ever get an opportunity to be a head coach or a GM again, I can take these lessons learned and be better the second time around. You don't get a whole lot of opportunities to be a head coach in the NFL. I mean, maybe they will again. I hope they're both around for a long time and they win multiple championships with the Vikings. That's my belief. But you got to shoot your shot. You got to do it the way you want to do it. If that's the guy they think, then they have got to go after their guy.
I do kind of wonder. I believe it was an article from Bill Barnwell on ESPN, and he's talking about what the optimum strategy for each pick in the first round is based on who has it. And he kind of suggests, and I wonder if this is true, if the Vikings don't already have some handshake deals in place behind the scenes with some of these teams, like they've already gone to Arizona and been like, hey guys, okay, so if JJ McCarthy is there at 4, we'll give you this, this, and this in order to trade up. I almost think they would have to have something like that in place. They might have a deal with Arizona in place. They might have a deal with the Chargers. They might have something with both, depending on who falls, because Arizona could be like, no, we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, and we're going to be happy with that and whatever. And they've got to have some kind of deal, and they've got to have a contingency plan, and they've got to have an emergency plan. I would be stunned if they didn't have all these different scenarios sketched out already, so that when we get to draft night, and if you got to assume that quarterbacks are the first 3 picks off the board, they're going to be like, okay, we're at number 4, and this is what we're going to do to secure our guy. So like Ted says, if it works out, great, and if it doesn't work out, well, you did what you thought was the right thing for this team in order to get them to where you wanted to get them to. So I do wonder how many of these contingency plans the Vikings have in place already.
I firmly believe the Vikings already have a deal with either Arizona or the Chargers that, hey, if the board falls this way at 4, we're going to call you and we're going to offer this, this, and this. Are you guys on board? Yeah, okay. If that's what the board shows, yes.
Vikings never leave you assured, but that does make me feel better if they have a plan A. I want them to have a plan A, B, C, D, whatever.
Be like Francis Albert Sinatra. I did it my way.
My way.
Or Fleetwood and Mac in this case.
Go your own way. So, like Drew, you mentioned the $105 million in cap space. You asked me, hey, look at all the free agents the Vikings will have. Let's talk about that. We're not going to mention them all because they have like 37 free agents. But they have a few key ones to include Byron Murphy, Harrison Phillips, Cam Bynum, Christian Darrisaw, David Questenberry, the 2 quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, Aaron Jones, and Justin Jefferson. And we cannot forget the great Abraham Gustav Teuton Beauregard Beauplan the Fourth Esquire.
We got to keep him.
So, look, they got a lot of free agents. A lot of these guys are not even going to make the roster this year, but they have, I would argue, 3 really important free agents in Darisaw, Justin Jefferson, and I would throw Harrison Phillips. Let's say 4, Cam Bynum in there. With $105 million in cap space, they're going to have to do extensions. You look at the salaries on some of the guys in 2025. You got like Brian O'Neill. You could redo those deals. The Vikings are going to have a ton of cap space. They're going to be able to work deals for all these guys, and they're going to be able to fill the roster and complete it and get depth guys. And I'm on board with you saying that 2025, man, if they can nail this quarterback pick and develop that guy, I think 2025 is going to be the year. It really feels like 2025 is going to be the year if they can get this quarterback pick right.
I think so too. And that's
Absolutely.
why we talked about it earlier in the day. What topic do you want to talk about? Let's talk about that, because a lot of people are just looking at this year, which, we should look at this year first, but next year looks like a whole hell of a lot of fun for me, man.
Heck yeah.
Especially if we get our quarterback, then whether he starts or not doesn't matter, because 2025 is what you're really looking at. I agree with the guys you said in free agency for the Vikings next year. We got to keep Darisaw, but I would probably, seeing how it goes with Darnold this year, even if he's not going to start next year, with a new quarterback coming in and working with him all year, I might try to carry that guy over to be a mentor or a backup quarterback to keep him on. But, by week 6, he could have 12 interceptions and we're running him out of town. So I don't know.
I think that's one of the reasons they brought Sam Darnold in, to be quite honest. I mean,
right.
Plus you've got Josh McCown as his quarterback coach. So McCown was the veteran when Darnold got drafted by the Jets. And now Darnold is the guy to help navigate this new quarterback in Minnesota and say, hey, look, man, I've been there. Now, Minnesota isn't New York in terms of media pressure and everything else, but he's going to be undergoing the same type of pressure as in when now. He's only going to have like 10 microphones in his face as opposed to 75 or 80 like Darnold got in New York, and he's going to have a lot better weapons around him. But Darnold understands the pressure of being a top 5 pick and expected to come in and win and all that stuff. I think it's really smart signing in that regard. And now McCown is there to kind of coach them both and say, hey, remember, you remember this, remember that. You can kind of help the youngster here, kind of thing. I just think it's a great move all the way around, but we'll see. All right, anything else with the news, gentlemen, or shall we move on?
Let's move on, mate. Let's talk about some cornerback.
Let's do that. It is time, as always, for my favorite offseason segment, the positional analysis. This week we're talking corners. Grayson, me wee lad, take it away.
Hey everyone, it's Ted's grandson Grayson, and now it's time for the Vikings Report off-season positional analysis segment. Hit it, Papa.
Last week we hadn't talked since the Diggs trade. First time I saw him, Papa, what do you think about the Diggs trade? Oh, it's great. That's great. But yeah, so this week we're talking cornerbacks. As always, we talk guys that are rostered. Then we'll talk about some free agency possibilities. And then we go to the world famous and regionally popular Drew Bunting Vikings Report 2024 big board.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, what do you think about the cornerbacks on the roster right now? You got Mekhi Blackman, Andrew Booth Jr., Caleb Evans, A.J. Green III, Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy, Najee Thompson, Jalen Williams, and Joejuan Williams. Not to be confused with Billy D.
Williams.
What was his name? Lando
Calrissian.
Lando Calrissian.
Yes.
The late, great Billy D. Williams, by the way, who just recently passed away.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I
he sure did.
One up there for Billy D.
Yeah, we don't have Colt 45, unfortunately. I think he did a lot of ads for that back in the day.
He did. That's right. He did some Colt 40. Yes, didn't he?
He sure did.
Yes, he did. I thought the cornerback group was they lost Patrick Peterson last year. They didn't re-sign Duke Shelley after the 2022 season, but I thought it was kind of a overall one of the more improved groups under
It really
Brian
was, and I think Byron Murphy was a whole lot better than a lot of us expected, and when he got hurt in the Cincinnati game, that kind of correlates with when the entire rest of the defense kind of took a dump on itself, and they couldn't stop anybody over the last 3 weeks of the season. So he'll be back healthy. I think the Shaq Griffin addition is a nice add. Mekhi Blackman got better last year. The guy that worries me a little bit is Evans. He looked almost completely disinterested for most of the second half of the season. His tackling was terrible. He got beat a lot of times. I mean, I don't know what it was with him because he looked fairly solid in his rookie season, and then last year, second half of the year, he just kind of disappeared and wasn't great anymore. But I think it's a good thing that the Vikings probably aren't going to have to focus on corner early on in the draft because they have enough young guys at the corner position with Blackman and Booth and Evans and those guys, and having Griffin to come in and be next to Murphy now gives them more of a veteran presence to go with Murphy, and I assume him and Blackman are going to be the other two starters. So, no, I think it's a pretty solid group, and they were a lot better than I think a lot of us expected last year.
Drew, Andrew Booth Jr. probably wakes up every day and says, "Thank God the Vikings drafted Lewis Cine, because if they didn't draft him, all the Vikings fans would be bitching about me."
That's right. That is right.
How are we feeling about him? I thought he saw the field a little bit more last year, and he wasn't. I'm like, he didn't set the world on fire, but he wasn't.
A couple years ago, he was flatlined, and it feels like we stuck the paddles on him. What do they yell? Clear?
Yep.
Clear? Pasa-boom! 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 And then we got a little jump out of him. It feels like we got the heartbeat back, like a little jump out of him. Now we need to hit him with the paddles a couple more times. I would really like to see Booth work out on the outside, Shaq Griffin. I think Blackman's going to end up being our shutdown corner for that 2025 season. He's going to bloom this year. Bloom and blossom.
You said that when they drafted him last year. You said in 2 or 3 years he's going to be the best cornerback on the roster. And
I did.
That trajectory is
unlike some other guys that like Asamoah didn't do me a solid there. But I would like to see those guys at the outside. I think Byron Murphy would be a great slot guy. He just looks like a slot guy. I think if you moved him to slot, he could be a Captain Munnerlyn. I do.
Really?
I think he's just better in the slot because he plays the short zones. He's more quick than fast, and he seems to have really good instincts around, he seems like he would eat up tight ends or anybody that's running out of the slot, even the wide receivers out there. He looks like a slot guy to me. I don't know if how accurate I am on that. I would like to see if Byron Murphy moved to slot. I think it would just open up a bunch of things. But right now, I think you can't move him because he has to lock down the outside corner. I love this group. I don't have anybody on my free agency list after looking at this group. I think they got all the guys to choose from here. I think they're going to draft somebody late, but I think they got the room pretty full with 9 corners right now. And I think, and these guys like Jalen Williams, I watched some more tape on today, not a bad player. And I think he's got a shot at making this team. You don't hear much about him because they don't play him a lot. But remember, Najee Thompson's a really good special teams player.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that matters in the long run. Nobody says anything about special teams until you get burned on a couple punt returns. Not really knowing much about A.J. Green. I agree with Chris about a Caleb Evans, and it's kind of sad to see because tackling, he was slowly becoming the best tackling corner the Vikings had, but he also has a concussion problem. I said a couple years ago he's not going to make it, so I'm hoping he is there and he makes the roster and can contribute, but you're right, his game fell off last season. And guys that don't show any interest need to be down the road. We got 4 or 5 really good guys right now. I think they might go out in free agency. I mean, I don't know if there's a limit on it when it ends, when you can't get free agent guys. But that fire sale that they have at the summertime when all the guys start taking any contract they can get?
Mm-hmm.
They might make a move on a veteran there and bring somebody in for 3 times the deal they could get rather than just buying them in March or whatever. I like this group, group of guys. I do. I think Flores likes them too.
Yeah, I do too. So for free agency, Drew, you said you didn't really see anybody. They had, Chris, you mentioned the Shaq Griffin signing. I thought that was a pretty decent signing. He had a decent year last year.
Right.
You look at his PFF numbers, they're a little bit above average. There's a guy out there, Adoree Jackson. He was terrible in 2023. I mean, he just was putrid. But you look at his career up until last year, he's a good player. I don't know if he's injured last year or what, but I don't know. It just seems he's under 30. Had a good career up until last season. But, other than that, I don't really see anybody else out there that would really be.
Wasn't that the USC guy that blew up for the Titans?
Yeah.
He was like heading towards superstardom, man.
Yep. And
I would be interested in bringing that guy on board because we've seen what he can do. He might have had a down year last year, but Ted might be onto something because those guys that have down years, Flores likes to bring them in. Kwesi likes to bring them in. Guys that, like Murphy, when they got him from the Cardinals, Murphy was like one of the top corners from Washington when he got drafted by the Cardinals.
That's why I think he brought Shaq Griffin in. Kind of had a little bit of a down year last year, but still decent. I trust Flores, man. Whenever they sign a defensive guy,
right,
Flores I trust. Chris, anything free agent wise? Any guys you saw that you thought, hey, we're taking
No,
a
it's
flyer
kind of
on?
like Drew said. I mean, you might find a veteran guy, a week or two before camp or something like that, when it's just like, yeah, nobody's offered me a deal before now. I better take something, or I'm gonna, be on the sidelines and whatnot. But no, I think the group they have now is solid, and so yeah, I don't think they're gonna actively, like Drew said, they might draft a guy in one of the later rounds or something like that. But no, I don't think they're gonna make any significant free agency additions at the corner spot between now and then.
All right, Drew. Well, then let's move on to your big board, if you will.
Horns, please. Wow, those are enthusiastic horns. That's like is that Chuck Mangione on the flugelhorn? What is that? Can you get a little power on that? You remember? Hey, Mangione!
He's on the Yacht Rock channel quite a bit between
that's right.
So Good and the. They do occasionally play the Cannonball Run theme song every once in a while, which was his as well, and it's pretty. I believe the kids would call that a certified banger.
That's what she said.
One of the first bands I really listened to when it came to rhythm section, Chris Vidala. Mangione got the shit going on over there.
If you don't Yacht Rock radio, do you even radio, bro?
No, you don't. Absolutely not. Best damn channel Sirius has.
What do we got looking at? Big cornerbacks this year, guy. We'll throw the board up there. Cornerback, the second to the last position we got. It's a position that's so important. You got to have an edge guy, you got to have a quarterback, and you got to have a corner. If you don't have any corners, you're not going to win. If you don't have a pass rush, you're not going to win. The Vikings have a pretty good group here. We're going to do it a little differently this week. We usually go through the top guys and then look for a couple guys later on and put them on Vikings watch. I'm not going to do that this year, Ted, because we're not getting any of these top guys.
Okay.
You look at everybody on that top 15, they're all going to be gone by the third, maybe the beginning of the fourth.
So you don't think, just hypothetically, don't mean to interrupt, hypothetically, Vikings don't trade up and they have 11 and 23. You don't think one of these guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean would be a guy they might look at 23?
It's strange because those are the only two guys I was going to talk about.
Really?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? People are probably wondering right now, what about Kool-Aid? Let's settle the Kool-Aid thing. Kool-Aid McKinstry got that name because his grandmother, when he was born, had a huge smile. She said he had a huge smile on his face all the time, and he reminded her of the Kool-Aid Man on TV. So they started calling him Kool-Aid. That became his name.
Oh, that's funny.
His real name is Quincy, so he's probably happy to be able to be called Kool-Aid McKinstry. Tremendous player. And the other guy you mentioned, the Cooper DeJean guy, man, I was so excited to watch that guy's tape. It's really tough. He's a guy you get corner, hybrid safety.
Yeah.
DeJean is going to be a hell of a football player. He's probably going to end up being maybe the best guy out of this whole group, because I think if they did trade up to get somebody, it'd probably be that guy. 106 tackles, 7 picks, 18 passes defense, and 3 defensive touchdowns. Come on.
The one thing I will say about Cooper DeJean is that I hope he learns how to call a fair catch between now and the time that he gets into the National Football League, because he didn't know how to do it this last year.
I didn't know much about him until I put the tape on, and I'm going, this guy's like an elite athlete out here. What a great player. Him and Kool-Aid are really up there on the list, but I don't think we're going to get any of these top guys. Most of them will be gone by the third round. Every year, there's about 35 corners taken. In 2021, there was 21 taken in the first 4 rounds. 2022, there was 20 taken in the first 4 rounds. And last year, there was 15 taken in the first 4 rounds. So I'm expecting about 20 taken in the first 4 rounds, and then 5, 6, and 7, people will stock up. It could be another 20, at least 15 more, 15 or 20 more after the 4th round. And that's what we're going to try to isolate on tonight, is to try to find a couple guys on Vikings watch that might be making the team. I mean, I could tell you about all these other guys, but Mitchell, we're not getting any of those guys. We may get a couple guys that I have late on my list, and we'll go over them real fast.
Oh, look at this. Conveniently down at number 12, a Michigan guy you probably have on Vikings watch.
I do not have him on Vikings watch.
Really?
Although Big Play Mikey, that guy, I don't know what it is, but he's that guy that's always around. He's Peanut Tillman, always around the football, always making big plays. Ted, he's burned Ohio State in a few plays. He's a great player in the secondary. I just don't know about his size. He's a big play guy, but the raw corner skills he kind of lacks in a lot of different areas. That's why I kind of had him low on here. I didn't put him on my Viking watch, but first, as I always do, I have a short little trivia question for you. Since I think the Vikings are going to be trying to find a gem at corner in the later rounds, they have found some in the past in the later rounds. So I got 4 people here that the Vikings I thought were good value picks after the 4th round. And I'm going to give you the school and the year, and you can tell me who it is.
Okay.
1961, 5th rounder from Pitt.
It's got to be Ed Schrockman, doesn't it?
Bam! Wait. When I do that, that means you got it right.
Nice.
In 1967, 7th round from South Carolina.
Bobby Bryant.
Nice.
I like the gavel. Leave me alone. 1983, 7th round out of Marshall.
Carl Lee, isn't it?
Oh, you guys are aficionados of the Minnesota Vikings. 1975, 12th rounder from Texas A&M Commerce.
Audrey McMillan?
No, close. So first name is the same.
Audrey Beeman?
Yes!
Nice.
The great Audrey Beeman! Ted Glover!
Yeah, baby! Yeah!
You want to try a couple of modern ones? I got a couple modern ones written on here. 2014 6th rounder from Virginia Tech.
Anton Exum.
Nice pull, dude. That's what she said.
Yeah.
By the way.
Okay, 2019 7th rounder from Texas.
Chris Boyd.
Oh my God. Chris Boyd, B-O-Y-D, otherwise known as Balls on Your Dome. Okay.
That might be the worst nickname of all time.
Balls on Your Dome. He was a pretty good player. He wasn't that bad.
Special teamer. He was solid.
My last one I got is 2020 5th rounder from Temple.
Harrison Hand.
Yeah!
That's what happens when you cover all this crap.
Aloha, Mr. Hand. You guys got
Nice
every
job,
one of these.
Chris. Good job.
Okay, corner guys. We're going to skip down. We're going to go all the way to Abrams Drain. Really like this guy, Ted. 5'11", 180. Outside corner or the slot. I like guys that can flip-flop back and forth. Missouri product. They beat Ohio State.
I didn't care about the Cotton Bowl the second Ohio State lost to Michigan. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care.
You know what I like about Abrams Drain?
I don't want to know. I honestly, God, don't want to know.
No. Seriously. 1,400 snaps at outside corner, 522 at slot, guys. I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of experience being a corner, whether you're playing inside or out. He can help in a lot of different areas. He's a really, really tough player. Gets knocked down, he gets back up again, Ted.
I get knocked down. Kind of like Chumbawamba. Never going to keep him down.
He has a whiskey drink. He's a
Chumbawamba player, Ted. He's a PT baby. I would like to see the Vikings get him. Maybe they can get him later. Next on my list, Kalen Carson. I think he's last on my list. Can play outside or slot. Give him a C in tackling. Give him a B in run defense. And I gave him a C in overall coverage. Very quick player. Like I said, versatile. Cover guy. He reads the routes really well. When you watch him on tape, he sticks to the receiver really well. His route recognition is really good. I don't know how much sand he has in his pants and how much he has in Twitch, but I don't look at Twitch. So if I did, Michael J. Fox would be a first-round pick.
Yeah!
Okay, next we got
Jesus.
Oh my God. No. Did you just say that?
We got Nehemiah Pruitt. Quiet.
The rest of the show is being preempted because we're going to hell.
I really like this guy, Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn. He's getting a bunch of shit because he's the guy that gave up that 4th down play to Alabama in the corner of the end zone that kept their season alive.
In the Auburn game? Alabama-Auburn game? Oh, yeah.
But if you look at it closely on that play, I looked at it a couple times. He doesn't really have that bad a coverage. It's just a great play. By Milroe, great pass, but, I don't think you should judge him on that one. I really like his game, Ted. Another versatile guy, outside slot, very versatile, outside slot, super competitive, really good deep speed, very quick feet, closing speed on receivers. He just seems like a guy that's coached up really well, 6', 190, and I know Flores would like to have him. A couple more guys, Marcellus Dial 38 games. I like these guys with experience, 29 starts, 3 picks last year. Great speed for the dial man from South Carolina. Then when we get Rattler later, they can team up together, one on defense, one on offense. A little sloppy on his fundamentals. If you notice, sometimes he's out of position, but you have to look for that. Look for the mistakes with this guy. He's a real coachable player. 4.46. You like a little speed with your corners. Love Ro Torrance. You know I like Ro Torrance, Ted? 6'3", 208. He's the tallest, even though he didn't make my top 15. Ro Torrance from Arizona State. 6'3", 208. I love the size. 37 tackles, 2 sacks. You can move Torrance around kind of like Cam Bynum. Remember Cam Bynum was a corner at Cal. The Vikings brought him in, and from day one, they drafted him to be a safety. They never had an idea to put him at corner. That's kind of what Ro Torrance is. He's going to probably make a better safety than he is corner, but guys that show confidence on tape rather than being lost, those are the guys I'll take. I'll give you my big sleeper. Big sleeper. This is the guy I want Minnesota to get. His name is Daquan Hardy. Daequan Hardy, as in Laurel and Hardy.
Hardy boys.
This guy is a great corner. And one of the reasons I like him, don't freak out when I say 5'9", 179. I know that's small. Guys, I know that's small, but he runs a 4.3, had 2 punt return touchdowns. We need a punt returner. 2 punt return touchdowns, 2 picks, 7 pass breakups for Penn State.
That's right, yeah.
He's a hard hitter. He's a tough player, plays with his hair on fire. But I like the fact that he ran these 2 punts back for touchdowns. It's not easy to do in football, whether it's college or pro. Good speed with 4.3. I think he would be a good corner to take. A lot of development. He's not going to play next year, I don't think, but he's a guy that Flores can mold, Ted.
Okay.
Molding players. We talked about it last week. Big sleeper on cornerback from Penn State, Mr. Daquan Hardy.
So you think they're going to get a corner later in the draft?
Yeah, I do. And I think some of these other guys, I mean, you could almost put those guys, the last guys I mentioned, Hardy and all those guys, on the fringe, right around the 5th round or so. Even my guys I mentioned that aren't on my top 15 are going to be right around probably between 15 and 22. I think if they see a value fall to the 4th or the 5th, they're going to grab one of those corners.
Yeah, I believe they have at least 2 picks in the 7th.
Chris, you think they're getting a corner in the draft this year?
I think so. I mean, after they make their 1st round pick or picks, whenever that's going to be, they don't have any more picks until day 3. And, day 3 is when you take all those guys that you hope can develop into at least depth players on the depth charts, where you get a lot of your special teams type guys. And yeah, I'm sure they'll take a corner sometime later on in the draft. It's obviously not a priority position for them with the way the roster is set up right now. But yeah, I definitely think they take one a little later on.
For all the guys that you talked about, Drew, the more versatile, the one thing I've noticed in a Brian Flores defense, the more versatile a guy is, the more you can do and the more positions you can play, the more he can use you. So the more versatile guys you talked about, I think, are the guys that the Vikings are probably looking at more than other guys. Unless you're a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean, however you pronounce the dude's name.
There's also a couple guys I looked at that are corner safety split guys like Bullard. We'll talk about him on the safety
Proctor
board next week. Yeah. Proctologist. Yeah, he's in there. So safeties are going to have some guys that can flop at corner also, but we're going to have to look at replacing Harrison Smith. So safety might be taken, in my opinion, maybe before a corner.
Yeah, I think so.
There's always, the corner group's a little bigger than the safety, but I think we need another safety, another guy we can kind of groom back there. That's why the Iowa guy is so intriguing, because he's a safety / corner. He can do it all.
When you're talking defensive backs for the Vikings, I think of guys like Josh Metellus. I mean, you have to have outside cover guys, obviously. Those guys do their job. But everybody else, look at what Josh Metellus does for the Vikings and think that's what the Vikings are looking at. Because Josh Metellus, holy crap, I think he played, 7 or 8 different positions for the Vikings at times last year. I mean, he plays just about everything except nose tackle, I think.
To let people know how smart our defensive coordinator is, he did play a bunch of different positions last year, like he did at Michigan. But you notice when he got into the league, he wasn't being used right. He wasn't flashing like he is now. Flores is such a great coordinator. He sees the best out of players. He knows how to position them. He knows how to get them on the mismatch. He knows how to use the best of each guy. And Josh Metella shows how good of a coordinator Flores
So
is.
I would think when you're looking at corners and defensive back safeties, which we'll talk next week, our last position group, look for guys that have that kind of versatility that Brian Flores can plug and play. Because if you remember the Vikings defense last year, I don't think you saw a front seven that was the same set of 7 guys twice, more than 4 or 5 times in a game last year. So anyway, so that's it for our positional analysis.
Ted, do you think they're taking a corner?
I do. I think it'll be later. They've got a fair amount of picks in the 6th and 7th round. I think it'll be later in the draft, but I think they'll take a couple flyers on guys, yeah.
Okay.
That'll be it for positional analysis this week. Like we mentioned a couple times, we've got one more positional analysis left for this offseason, and then the draft shall be upon us, gentlemen. How about that? Wow.
Can't get here soon enough, man.
I'm looking forward to the party we are going to have.
Ruby has been super busy with work lately, so sadly we will not have a trivia segment this week, so this will end the competitive portion of this week's version of Vikings Report with Drew and Ted and Chris. Folks, thanks so much for joining us. Chris, it's been an absolute joy to have you join us full time, except when you decide I have to work and pay bills and blah, 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 whatever. It's great having you now on board full time with us. Like, subscribe, comment. Make sure you join us on April 25th for the live show. For me, I'll try to do better the next time. Chris, say goodnight. Drew, take us home, buddy.
Yeah, like I said, this is 2 shows in a row now, which is pretty impressive considering that I missed a few
Start
weeks
calling
there.
You Byron Buxton, you're so durable and dependable.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. The draft can't get here soon enough. It's going to be a great party. Like we've said, unfortunately, we had to miss last year for various reasons. But there's nothing stopping us this time around, and it's going to be great getting all the readers back in here for a live show because that's always fun. And it's going to be one of the more interesting first rounds we've had in some time as Vikings fans because nobody has any idea what the hell this team's going to do on that Thursday night. So it's going to be something to look forward to.
Sure they do, Chris. Just go on social media. They'll tell you everything you need to know. They're all the experts. The GM guys are on there. I always love talking football with you guys, and I made a little list here because I can't leave the show after doing a show with a guy named Kool-Aid. So I put together a little list here of some names of guys that have gotten drafted, and I will run through a few of them. Shout out to all these guys because we can't forget. Tight end Rowdy Beers. There was General Booty, the quarterback from Oklahoma. Chief Borders. Major Burns. Linebacker from University of Texas, San Antonio, the Great Pig Cage.
Nice.
We had DeColdis Crawford, DeReyes Clark, Storm Duck, the DB from Louisville, Storm Duck, I don't remember him. Memorable Factor, Fish McWilliams, Octavius Overdrive, Dude Person, Shitta Sila, not kidding you, SHITTA, Shitta Sila, Tiger Shanks, Kavosky Smoke, Max Van Murdog, Fat Watts, and my favorite one of all, the great Parker Titsworth.
Nice.
I am not kidding you. Parker Titsworth, shout out to you. So on that note, I just leave people with nicknames. There's been some great nicknames in.
Did he have a motorboat?
How much Twitch did he have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, subscribe. Thank you for watching episode 130, and we'll do safeties next week. Get ready for the draft show. Until next time, say goodnight, Chris.
Good night, Chris.
Good night,
Say goodnight, Ted.
Titsworth.
That's his name, dude. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.